Are you fascinated by the unexplained? Do you love delving into the mysteries of the paranormal, or how we respond to media that pushes us to the limit of our understanding? Do you love to dive headfirst into the exploration of the human psyche with meditations or channeled messages from beyond? Join our podcast network, Another Realm Media, and explore the unknown with us. From ghosts to aliens, cryptids to conspiracy theories, horror to sci-fi, we've got it all. Don't miss out on the excitement. Join us today and unlock the secrets of the universe. Email us at contact@anotherrealmmedia.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another fantastic, fun, and informative episode of The Convergence Enigma with Josh and Stefan. I am your host, Stefan Gerhardt, and I am joined, as always, by the trying to blame COVID for his balding, Mr. Josh Rutledge. What up, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic until I realized I was balding on my crown. So if Keeps would like to contact us about doing, a promo with them, that'd be fantastic. They always say it's your mother's father, right? That's how you're supposed to do genetically. It's your
lies.
But my mom's dad had a full head of hair until the day he died. So I don't know.
Yeah,
gotta be COVID.
My mom's dad, full head of hair. My dad and his dad, both bald as all get out. My brother, bald as all get out.
So yeah,
something wrong here.
Yeah, Tommy had COVID before it was COVID.
Before it was COVID, yeah. He had COVID, 8 years ago?
8 years ago.
I'm just kidding. He's probably listening to this episode, so just joking. He's got a full head of skin.
So anyways, yeah. So that's a new thing to be, so it's funny because I deal with stress really well, so I don't have a lot of gray hair. Like my younger brother, who's 18 months younger than me, has way more gray hair than I do.
He really does.
But apparently I'm going to be the one that balds before he does. So
awesome. Well, Josh, we got a really special episode today. Why don't you tell everybody about what you want to talk about, what's been going on, or talk about what we're going to be talking about?
So I'll just say that for this episode, we're going to talk about the UAP hearing that happened as of this recording just 2 days ago.
So that'd be July 26th.
Yep. And we're going to go into some, thoughts around that hearing, as well as just, maybe some assumptions or things that I have around the content that was provided and the way that it was provided. But before we get into that, there are probably a lot of people who are like, where'd you guys go? What happened to the convergence enigma? Did you converge and fall into a hole or something?
Or disconverge?
Discombobulation? I don't know. But so I thought maybe it would be a good idea to kind of give everybody an update on, kind of where we have been for the season, where we're going for the rest of the season, and what it looks like potentially into next year. So I think we first started out with the season, we shifted gears a little bit towards doing a lot of experience or interview. We did one live show. We had, the great Shane Hurd on the call with us. It was a fantastic episode, but we didn't get any crowd involvement. And, I know that there's not oftentimes that you get success right out of the gate, with your live shows, but we also just didn't feel like maybe that was the right thing for the show.
Right. And my work schedule changed as well. And
right.
So we weren't able to do the live time like we wanted to.
Right. And then secondarily, when we rebranded the podcast from Fearscape Paranormal Podcast to the Convergence Enigma, we did so because we were in this vein of thinking that somehow all of the different phenomena is somehow related to each other. As we shouldn't be looking at it independently as UFOs and ghosts and Bigfoot. We should be looking at it collectively as the entire phenomenon. And we started looking at spots, what John Keel often referred to as windows, right? Where there was these spots where all of these different phenomena were happening at the same time. And is there some sort of linkage there? But with the revision that we made for this season, we feel like that was a deviation from the reason why we did the rebranding. And so that's why I think for the rest of this season, we're going to do, other than today's episode, which is really around the hearing, we're going to do more of a focus on those convergences, looking at kind of those special sites that exist around the U.S. and around the world, and looking at all of the phenomena cases that are talked about for whatever that's, the specific site is that we're looking at. And so I think for the rest of this year, it's like maybe 2 or 3 more episodes for this season, short season. And then into next year, hopefully expanding more into some of those convergence areas.
Yep. It's going to be pretty awesome. But let's get cracking. Let's get talking about this UAP hearing. It was long. It was 2.5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, total video time was 2.5 hours. They kind of were all kind of mingling in the beginning,
right?
As they kind of
for about if you're watching the News Nation one, it was.
Yeah.
I think it started around 17 or 18 minutes.
Yeah, and then they kicked things off, and not everybody, but like 6 people had to go around and give opening statements about why they were there and why this was an important thing. And I mean, I guess everybody has to do that. One person, I don't remember who it was, but one person took it like time to wish their wife happy birthday and all this kind of stuff. It's like, come on, people. Anyways, by the way, I'm just playing.
I'll say happy birthday to my wife.
Yeah. Anybody out there from Shelby County? No,
Shelby County. But yeah, I mean, we've got it posted on our website, correct? The transcript, if you wanted to read the thing, the entirety, or you can, go on YouTube.
Yep. So we've got the YouTube link from News Nation, and then the transcript of the entire thing. If you want to read it, you can go to theconvergenceenigma.com/UAP. And there's just a blog entry there that has all that detail. And, one of the things that I didn't see after I was watching this 2.5 hour long thing was any type of, there's a lot of people breaking down what all happened, but I really wanted to go back and read what people said. There's probably some keywords that were tossed around in there that maybe you missed out on in the 2.5 hours that you tuned in. So that's why I created the transcript, and like I said, it's up on our website. But yeah, so the 3 witnesses that appeared in front of this committee hearing were Ryan Graves, who's been in the media in the past, Commander David Fravor, who has also been
Fravor.
He was one of the pilots for one of the cases, or one of the videos that the TikTok video that was produced back in,
or as the chairman said, the TikTok video.
The TikTok video. And then they made a whole point in like 5-minute tangent talking about how TikTok is not the same as a Tic Tac, and then at some point in time, Fravor even said refer to it as a flying propane tank instead of a Tic Tac, in case people didn't know what a Tic Tac was. But anyway, so then
we had Goresh too.
Then we had Grush, right? So
yep.
So Graves we've heard from before. I want to say even maybe in this type of setting. Fravor, I'm pretty sure we've heard from before, and they've been on the scene for a while. But Grush is relatively new. He had the interview that came out from News Nation, then there was the article from the debrief, and then from there, a lot of other media outlets have picked it up and had, kind of run with his story. And I'll admit, when he first came forward and I read through the article on the debrief, I didn't feel like he really had a lot to add. I felt like he was really just rehashing things that we already knew. And I looked at him as really like a puzzle piece, if you will, or a chess piece. He was just another piece on the board now that they could move around and put up there in the media and such to further the agenda of, kind of a mass disclosure. But after the hearing on the 26th, I've changed my tune, so to speak. I really feel like he does have a lot to offer that we didn't already have in an official capacity, right? We all, like the community at large, had some assumptions based on people's experiences and eyewitness testimony and such, but we didn't have the concrete evidence or message, so to speak, that he did not provide on Wednesday. So when I say did not provide, several times when asked questions, he would say things like, I can't talk about that in a public setting, but I can tell you more in a closed setting, or, the term used was skiff. And so to me, when I read or when I hear those things, it's almost like an admission of yes, right? It's there was, has the government made contact with non-human intelligence? I can't talk about that in a public setting, but I'll tell you about it in a secure, that's, in my opinion, that's a yes, because
that's a yes.
In other cases,
he would have just said no.
Right. If he didn't have the knowledge, or if he didn't know the answer, he would have said no, because he did so throughout the testimony. And so when you read back through the things that he actually said, unofficially, my interpretation, yes to, it's some pretty interesting stuff. In fact, in the article that, or whatever, the transcript that's on our website, I went through and I highlighted all the areas where, or not highlight, but underlined all the areas that he was asked questions like this and gave that answer of, I can't say it in public, but, I can talk to you about it behind closed doors. And so it's very interesting to go through and look at some of those. Like, so for example, the committee chair asked at one point, Mr. Grush, you claimed that information is being hidden. What kind of information do you think was hidden, and do you think you should remain hidden? So he then said, yes, I can speak to that very briefly in an unclassified manner, but I can give you more.
Right.
So obviously there's a lot of information to be gained here. And so a couple times throughout the hearing, the representatives apologized to all three, saying, sorry, we're asking you these questions over and over again, but we need to have them stated as a part of public record in this hearing. And so to me, I feel like, because there was a couple times where I can't ever pronounce her name correctly. The person from New York, Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, Cortez. There, thank you.
Just call her AOC.
AOC. But she asked a question of Grush of, can you give us people, places, and names, or people, places, and titles, or anything? And he said, not in a public setting. Then she asked the same question to Favor and Graves, both of which said, I don't have any of that information, basically establishing that Grush is the only source that can provide this information, right? So now, I feel like if Congress were to go to whoever's blocking their access, and if whoever's blocking their access says you can get it from somewhere else, they can say, nope, look, see, we interviewed these three people, and Grush is the only person who said we can get it from them. So I feel like a lot of that hearing was also part of the chess game, so to speak, of getting to who is the person who can give us the information we need, and then once we have that established, now we can go take that and say we need this access to move forward.
It was interesting because like the thing that I liked was the congressmen and women that were basically saying we are sick of the lack of transparency. When we represent the people, we are the people that are supposed to be governing here. You're supposed to be coming to us. You work for us. We don't work for you. And then they were talking about like Arrow's budget is they're not even allowed to look at the budget.
Right. Or when somebody talked about the audit they do for the Pentagon every year shows about $1 billion missing every single year whenever they audit the Pentagon. Where does that money go? I mean, Grush even said at one point that because he talked about when he was talking with, I think, Representative Garcia about the misappropriation of funds. And Representative Garcia said, well, how does that happen? And he said, well, just it's put on the books for one thing, but then it's redirected to one of these programs, which supersedes the oversight of Congress.
Yep.
And so, and I think it's really eye-opening.
Which again, it tells you, I'm about to get conspiracy theorist here, but it tells you that the military has more power than Congress, are actual leaders of the country. They are in more control.
I don't know that I agree with that statement. I would say that there are individuals within the military that think they have more power than Congress, but the military and in its like the entirety, like some grunt working security desk.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying is like that there's all these black budgets and there's all this stuff that Congress cannot see means that there's a higher level above Congress.
Yeah. Well, and it also in throughout the testimony, there was a point where they asked, Grush who was in control, and he said something along the lines of, there's a group of individuals who control the flow of information, and he was asked a following question saying, is this government? And he said both in and out. So
the Majestic 12.
Right, or whatever the case. Yeah, I mean so again, it's this idea of an Illuminati type organization that is somehow above the elite's elite, so to speak, that is somehow
above the civilian leadership.
Right. Well, above everything, right? Or maybe it's like Jeff Bezos is a part of it or something. Like there's some sort of idea that there's some corporate individuals that are also controlling this kind of narrative of don't let them see what's behind the curtain.
Right.
So bottom line, I think that throughout the presentation that was given, a lot of fantastic information was given by Grush. I mean, I applaud Graves and Fravor equally because they had to come forward and give this testimony on air. Graves seemed very sincere in making, he wants to have some answers to keep his pilots safe. I had not heard about the Americans for Secure Airways, I think is what it's called. I went and looked it up. It does have a website, but you can't really do anything on the website other than become a member, and then it gives you ways to contact your congressperson to let them know that you want transparency on this topic or whatever. But his organization, I think, also represents not just the military side of the house, but civilian pilots in the form of commercial airlines and things like that. And so he has a lot of quote unquote sighting information that he's captured through that organization as well. I think there was a breakdown potentially in that towards the end of the hearing, all three individuals were asked if a person in the general public wants to know or wants to file a report, what can they do? And all three members said there doesn't exist a modality to do so. And so,
which is sad.
Which is, there are, a number of modalities, MUFON probably being one of the biggest, NUFORC being a second, and then a bunch of others that have popped up across the board. So it's disappointing that that at least MUFON or NUFORC wasn't named as a location for people to go and file the reports.
Especially with MUFON working with
right.
the UAP task force.
They want the MUFON data. They just don't want to direct people to MUFON.
Yeah. And, I think I saw an interview with Nick Pope and Chrissy Newton on News Nation breaking down the hearing. And they were talking about, that it almost seems like they're not interested in civilian reports. They are only interested in military reports or pilots, commercial pilots.
Well, and I think it's because there's some level of automatic, credential, if you will, that comes with being a military or commercial pilot in the way that they're trained to identify specific things in the air, right? Your average civilian, as the MUFON would tell you, go talk to any of the MUFON field investigators or reach out to your straight director. They'll tell you that a majority of the sightings that are reported to them turn out to be, non-anomalous type activity like Venus or a satellite or the International Space Station or whatever. So, I don't think you're going to find a military or commercial airline pilot that would file a report for Venus or the International Space Station, right? So there's less sorting the wheat from the chaff, right? There's less that you have to sort through to get to the good information that you could then go pursue to try to find out what's going on.
Well, it's just sad because, I think Graves is the one that said it, that only of all the military and commercial pilot sightings, only maybe 5% are reported. But there's 95% that go unreported because of taboos or whatnot that still exist. Right.
Well, and I think
fear
at some
of
point,
repercussion.
right? And even if it's lifted, if it ever reverses, right? So let's say that there's no longer a taboo, and so all these people come forward, and then at some point in time it's reversed, right? There's still that fear of it's okay now, but will it be okay in a year or 5 years from now? So there's still that risk. So that's why I think that you see a lot of, retired personnel who are willing to come forward because they don't have anything to lose, right? Other than maybe getting razzed by their fellow service members when they go, back to experience, to the next retirees dinner or something.
Right.
That's about the only thing they have to worry about. So I did find it really interesting. The question was asked to all three how they got, why they decided to come forward or get involved. Both Graves and Grush said it was kind of a sense of responsibility, a sense of duty to the American people. But Fravor said that he was pestered by a friend, and after about 6 times being asked to come, to say something, he finally decided to say something. So it's just, not that Fravor wouldn't also think about it from a national, from a duty perspective. I just thought it was funny that, basically he was okay seeing this thing and never talking about it until somebody bugged the crap out of him long enough that he decided it was worth it not to hear that anymore. So
yeah, so what's super interesting to me, and I would really like to have you talk about what Grush said in his interview and in this, because that's the thing that's catching the most waves right now. This is the first time I've seen non-UFO people on social media talking about aliens and talking about UFOs. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. All the people that friends of ours that we've tried to get to listen to our show and they roll their eyes about are now anxious to listen to our show to see what we have to say about what they saw.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, of course, Grush came forward when he did, and he basically said, I'm a whistleblower. He filed the appropriate paperwork within the government to be a whistleblower, and he came forward and he basically said that, hey, there's all this stuff that's going on, crash retrievals, non-human intelligence. That's the new term now.
That's the new alien term.
Right? It's not alien or extraterrestrial anymore, because that's too narrow. It's non-human intelligence. But there's all this stuff that he talks about in his interview about biologics being recovered and tested. Somebody asks him, human biologics, and he says no, non-human biologics. So there's like an admission there that we have non-human bodies, right, in our possession. So he basically said that he saw all this going on, all of it happening outside of government oversight, and that's why he went the route of becoming a whistleblower and kind of reporting all this stuff. So it makes you wonder. Well, I don't. Maybe it's a moot point, but let's say he was in all this thing and it did have congressional oversight. Would we ever know about it, right?
Right.
Because that's this whole thing, is that it didn't have congressional oversight. They need to know about it. That's why he came forward. But regardless of if it did or didn't, he came forward. He effectively has, in my opinion, like a skeleton key to unlock all the doors. And I don't. Somebody asked him during the testimony, and I don't have the text directly in front of me at this time, but I can summarize or paraphrase. But somebody asked him if there was any, if he thought that any of this stuff should be declassified, or if it was overclassified. And he said that, aside from, in like a video that shows a UAP, just blot out the parts that indicate some sort of a sensitive equipment or something was used to capture that, so we don't expose ourselves to our enemies, but make that video available to people, because it's important and they need to know. And so even Fravor talked about there being an overclassification. He said that one of the ones that happened on Virginia Beach was taken on a guy's cell phone, like an iPhone camera. And that was classified, above top secret. And he's like, I don't see how that works. I mean, it's an iPhone camera. And he said, I think a lot of this stuff has just been, the initial response is overclassify it, make it impossible for people to get to. And yeah, I mean, I just, again, I think that Grush, like I said, is like a keys to the kingdom situation. If Congress can get access to the information he has. And when I say keys to the kingdom, I think it's keys to the kingdom for Congress. I don't know if we, the public, will ever, it'll take somebody looking through what we have and scrubbing it so that it's, redacted, basically, from giving away any of our trade secrets. And, I imagine look at the redacted documents we get from the CIA, right? And everything's all blacked out. Imagine a video you get of a UAP and all you can see is the sky streaming by, but you can't. Everything else is blurred out. So, I don't know what it's going to translate to, but I really do think that, and I've said this to a couple other people, this, we're involved in some really weird chess game right now. And I used to think it was like a three-way chess game, in that somebody who wants disclosure, somebody who doesn't, and us, the public. But I now realize that it's really just a two-way chess game, somebody who wants it, somebody who doesn't, and the public is just a piece on the board. And so bringing these three guys forward in this hearing is just a chess move, and how it affects us as the other piece on the board will also be a chess move.
Yeah, because that's one thing I was going to say. It's a gauge, because one thing I've realized from looking at, well, I've always realized this, but now officially seeing it on social media, is that, again, there's no panic. But even the general public, the non-UFO people, we have panic so ingrained in us that we think that panic will happen because of movies, that the biggest quote that I saw all over social media is, why aren't people talking about aliens right now? Which to me says, why isn't anybody freaked out about this? Yeah. And everybody, if you look at comments, are like, because we already knew. We already knew. The generations that exist right now, even boomers, especially Gen X and millennials, we're like, yeah, we know. We've always known. There is no panic happening. And that's what I love about this hearing that it did, is it set the gauge for the powers that be to see that no panic has happened with Rush saying, hey, there's non-human entities and craft retrieval.
So
nobody's running.
I still think, though, and this is just maybe me being a little more conservative in the approach, but I still think it's one thing to have someone say there is non-human intelligence that is behind, or we have the bodies or whatever. It's one thing to hear that. It's another thing to have them show up in your living room, right? And so
like signs.
Right. Or in the case of, like we talked about on the Astral Stew episode, in the case of that show in the 90s where it was like a police officer and he was, what was it called, Stefan? Come on. The show where there's aliens living on Earth.
Alien Nation.
Alien Nation, right. Thank you. So, I don't know what people's actual reactions would be if all of a sudden they went to the grocery store and there were grays and reptoids and praying mantis
sharing space with us, right?
Sharing space with, I just don't know, because a large population of us still has a problem, and I say us as in humans, still has a problem accepting other humans. So
right.
I don't know how accepting we would be.
And accepting service animals.
Right. Yeah. Are you trying to imply a gray would be a service animal?
No, I'm just saying, I think
humans
can't even accept other animals. Other humans, and then here's another species, and people are like, you should not be bringing that dog in here. This is Walmart. This is Lowe's.
So, I think it's a good step forward in that people are not freaking out, right? On Facebook and other places. But I think until we have a hearing where there is a member of the Galactic Federation sitting at the table, right? And we're like, how do we know you're legit? And he I don't know, somebody beams down a can of, clear Pepsi or something. And he's like, this was, sorry, it was a debacle. And, until that happens, it's not really going to hold true in people's minds that, yes, this is legit. Because, like you said, many people have the feeling that they knew it already, right? That they in their gut or whatever, their gut feeling is it's all real. So nothing new came forward for them. So, it will be interesting to see where it goes. What does next steps look like?
Right.
It'll also be interesting to see how other people in the community who have already kind of been out, like Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, if they're given any kind of additional credibility because of Grush coming forward, because I feel like Lou has gotten and Chris Mellon have gotten a little bit of some backlash over the last couple of years. And so it'll be really interesting to see if any of this helps bolster their position instead of, taking it away. So.
Yep. Yeah, and one of my favorite comments that I've been seeing because of our generation, and a little bit younger who grew up listening to, heavy metal and new metal and things like that, is people are saying, "Oh my God, Tom was right, Tom DeLonge," because they were all Blink 182 fans,
Right.
and he's always talked about it, and so I've been seeing a lot of Tom was right,
Yeah.
and I love that.
You need to put that on a T-shirt.
I know. And it just makes me say that Lou and Chris and Tom and those guys missed an opportunity for more seasons of their show that was on History Channel. I think because they kicked all this stuff off, but they could have kept that going. And I don't know the logistics as to why it stopped, but
it's obviously like it did for the Murder Castle guy. They were getting too close to the truth, so they had to shut them down.
That's standard history.
Hanger
Jeff Mudgeons.
Yeah. What was the Hanger 51 or whatever that is?
Yeah, same thing with UFO hunters.
Yeah.
UFO hunters, they got too close and they got canceled.
Yep. It's that elite group that's telling them, no more, guys. You're getting too close. You're going to take away our bread and butter.
Yep. So,
what'll be, so this is a little bit funny, but one day, hopefully in my lifetime, if all this comes to fruition, right? If we have a hearing with a member of the Galactic Federation sitting there talking to us about all the things that they've done for us over the last 2,000 years, I would love to know the list of things that we can, we have, NHI technology to thank for, it's probably really dumb things like Kleenex and Lysol, right? It's or
slime.
Yeah, slime, gack,
or that what's that? Kinetic sand.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
stuff like that. Gack. Jello shots.
Yeah, Jello shots. Twist off beer caps.
Aspartame.
Yeah. It's probably all the dumb things.
Yep.
It's
Funko Pops. That's all gray technology.
It's got to be because they're small and they got big heads. So,
that's
anyways, so yeah, I think that is wraps. I could go line by line of all the things that I underlined on the article, but instead I would encourage you, the listener, the viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube, to go to theconvergenceenigma.com/UAP and read it for yourself. We'll have a link to that if you didn't catch it in the 5 seconds that I read it off to you. But it's some really interesting stuff. And like I said, if you take some kind of free look at things and you say every time he says I'll talk to you about it in a secure location and apply that to be a yes, he told us we got a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, so anyways, I think that kind of wraps the coverage of the episode of the hearing.
Yeah, it was 2.5 hours, but it was a lot of repeated information. So
it was
it's still worth watching. Grab some popcorn, grab a brewski, and check it out and watch it with your loved ones.
Maybe put it on 1.5 speed or even 2 speed on YouTube.
Yeah. Remember, if you're watching the News Nation one, start at about 18 minutes.
18 minutes, yeah. But Stefan also, because we didn't get a chance, we were so excited to get into the UAP hearing stuff, we did not do Psychic Word of the Week. We had one prepared for today. Do you want to take just a minute and talk and do that real quick?
Sure. So yeah, this is Psychic Word of the Week.
And now, the Psychic Word of the Week.
All right, so Josh actually just gave me the number 33, and so I pulled it up, and the words that I came up was assumption of God forms. Assumption of God forms. This is from ancient Egypt.
Isn't that like a school or something?
That's in Louisville, Assumption High School. That's that's the short version.
Yeah.
The long version is Assumption of God Forms High School. So, but it says to psychically merge one's consciousness with an etheric world intelligence called gods at the time, in an animal form that could be detected by physical eyes, to function for a time in the new form and then return to one's normal consciousness for normal living. This is also goes into shape changing, dimension shifting. I also think that it is very much like a familiar, a witch's familiar.
Oh,
Well,
so it's like you leave your physical body, you go live in this other.
no, you merge your consciousness
Merge your consciousness.
with a god in an animal form.
Okay. So you're both in the animal form.
I think so,
Okay.
because you can see it with physical eyes. So
Yeah.
you're merging your consciousness with Jesus, and you're becoming a dolphin.
That feels like the right selection, by the way. Not at all would I choose Osiris and a jackal or Osiris and a whale. It's got to be Jesus and a dolphin. That
Yep, Jesus
seems
and a
like
dolphin.
the best cocktail recipe right there.
Or you can do Thor and an ant.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Or you could do, what's another god? You could do Zeus. You could do Zeus and the Jersey Devil. You ain't doing Zeus and the Jersey Devil. You're not an animal.
I
You're a
don't know.
cryptid.
Sometimes he acts like one.
He's a cryptid. Cryptids are multifaceted.
Sometimes he acts like an animal. I walked in your kitchen one day and he was eating cereal out of the sink.
He does. He doesn't even use a spoon. He just
He
bobs.
just
He bobs
pours
like
it.
bobs for apples.
Yeah, just pours it in there and just yeah, it's weird.
It is.
I didn't know his tongue was that long, but I knew things every day. So,
Yep.
anyways,
Yeah, so that's our psychic word of the week. I did want to also real quick just take an opportunity to remind people to check out our other show, Astral Stew. This does come out monthly. There's not as much research that goes into it as the Convergence Enigma, which is why we have such a short season this year. But a lot of incredible knowledge goes into Astral Stew. The things that we talk about on
great
there.
discussions. Yeah, just it's always a good time every single time we do it. So
Yeah, if you haven't listened or watched yet, get on our YouTube page, the Convergence, Another Realm Media, and check out the Astral Stew there, or just look up Astral Stew on Spotify or iTunes. It is available as podcast form as well, and it's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. So it's so much fun. So.
And if you, we still have a lot of great T-shirts and things. If you ever are interested in buying, I'm out there adding things every now and then. And you can go to theconvergencenenigma.com/store, or you just go to our website and click on store at the top and get to the page that way. So,
Yep. But other than that, Josh, let's go ahead and get out of here, man. This has been, it's been real. It's been fun, and it has been real fun.
yeah, it has been real fun. Yeah.
Has been real fun. So stay tuned. Like we said, we got a couple more episodes coming out this year. Be on the lookout for those. Some convergences that we're going to be talking about. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we got to get out of here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening and or viewing the Convergence Enigma with Josh and Stefan. This has been Stefan with a reminder to keep your eyes on the skies, especially now.
Yeah, and this is Josh. I mean, the truth is now. Literally, the truth is now.
Literally. Anyways, good night, folks. You guys take care, and share your thoughts with us, what your thoughts were on the UAP hearing. We'd love to hear them.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.